For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. President Joe Biden and Republican Donald Trump won their party's primaries in Michigan, but the final results show trouble for Biden. More than 100,000 Democrats voted uncommitted in a backlash to the Biden administration's unclad military support for Israel's war in Gaza, as the death toll of Palestinians nears 30,000. Michigan has a large Arab American population. Dearborn's Mayor Abdullah Hamid spoke to Al Jazeera.
You simply can't look past the genocide where there's been the killing there's been over 100,000 now who have been killed, wounded, or who are missing. So you can't literally just write off a genocide.
In 2020, Joe Biden won the swing state by some 154,000 votes. In 2016, Donald Trump won it by some 10,000. Support for Trump's rival Nikki Haley once again shows some Republican voters are reluctant to support Trump's third bid for the White House. Haley's campaign says she's still in the race until at least Super Tuesday, March 5th, when 15 states and the U.S. territory of Samoa will cast votes. United Nations officials are warning famine in Gaza is almost inevitable, and if current conditions persist, Israel's war and siege of the Gaza Strip will lead to a complete agricultural collapse in the north of Gaza. They testified before the United Nations Security Council Tuesday, days after 2 infants died of malnutrition and starvation over the weekend, according to Gaza's health ministry. Christopher Martinez reports.
I'm here to report on a grave situation in Gaza.
Ramesh Ramasinghan is with the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, or OCHA. He says at least 576,000 people, a quarter of Gaza's population, are, in his words, facing catastrophic levels of deprivation and starvation. He described shortages of food and fuel, damaged infrastructure, destroyed bakeries, overcrowding, and conditions ripe for epidemics. And then there's damage to crops, bombed greenhouses, and farms abandoned because of evacuation orders.
There is every possibility for further deterioration. Military operations, insecurity, and extensive restrictions on the entry and delivery of essential goods have decimated food production and agriculture. Food security experts warn of complete agricultural collapse in northern Gaza by May if conditions persist.
As many aid officials have done before, he emphasized the importance of a ceasefire.
If nothing is done, we fear widespread famine in Gaza is almost inevitable.
Reporting for Pacifica Radio News KPFA, I'm Christopher Martinez.
The families of hostages held in Gaza and their supporters are launching a 4-day march from southern Israel to Jerusalem, demanding their loved ones be set free and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government do more to secure their release. The march comes as negotiations are underway to bring about a deal between Hamas and Israel that would lead to a ceasefire in exchange for the release of hostages. Negotiators from the U.S., Egypt, and Qatar are working on a deal that would see Hamas free some of the 130 or so hostages it holds in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners and a 6-week halt in fighting during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Democratic and Republican congressional leaders in the U.S. struck an optimistic tone that they can avert a government shutdown slated to begin Saturday after a White House meeting with the president Tuesday. Lawmakers also pressed House Speaker Mike Johnson to put the Senate's $95 billion national security aid bill that provides funding to Ukraine and Israel to the House floor for a vote. Alex Gonzalez reports.
We believe that we can get to agreement on these issues and prevent a government shutdown, and that's our first responsibility.
Speaker of the House Mike Johnson reportedly committed to trying to avoid a government shutdown at what's being described as an intense Tuesday meeting with President Joe Biden and other congressional leaders. But there are still questions about how to get there by Friday. Johnson says the border is a catastrophe and remains a top priority, while Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer wants aid for Ukraine.
But he can't say it won't do Ukraine until we get border. He's tried to do border for 6 months and couldn't come up with a single Democratic vote.
The Senate has passed a foreign aid package, including billions for Ukraine, after Republicans Republicans killed a bipartisan immigration deal at the instruction of former President Donald Trump. Johnson has refused to let the House take up the aid package. I'm Alex Gonzalez for Pacifica Network and Public News Service.
Yulia Navalnaya, the widow of deceased Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, accused Russia of killing her husband. He died in an Arctic penal colony. She addressed the European Parliament and urged lawmakers to target Russia President Vladimir Putin's mafia associates and criminal enterprises. She said her husband's funeral will be Friday, and she fears it will not take place peacefully. Navalny died while serving a 19-year sentence on extremism charges that he rejected as politically motivated. I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.